Stacy Jo Rost of 710 Seattle Sports joins the show to discuss the ALDS and more coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Saturday, October 4th, 2025. This is Ty Gonzalez for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. And as always, if you want to hear from me and my co-host Colby even more and help support the show, you can check out our Patreon. All you have to do to check that out is click the link in the description of this episode. So it's a big day. Mariners and Tigers kicking things off tonight at T-Mobile Park. And it's a busy day here on the show, of course. We've already dropped our crossover preview with Scott Bentley of Locked On Tigers. Ben Ranieri and I will be recording a post-game reaction tonight. You also, obviously, will get the postcast from Chris and Anders. And you're also getting this show, which features an hour-long conversation with Stacy Jo Rost of 710 Seattle Sports. Stacy is the best. Had a great time chatting with her. Now, we recorded this on Thursday night right after the Tigers beat the Guardians. So, of course, we didn't know that Brian Wu would be left off the ALDS roster. We do, however, talk about the series with the context of Wu potentially missing it. So, there you go. We also didn't know, and maybe this is your first time hearing about this, that Josh Naylor may have to go on the paternity list as soon as today, as he and his wife are expecting the birth of their child. So the Mariners potentially far from full strength heading into the series, which obviously doesn't help with the natural nerves that I had going into this weekend. But Stacy and I try to work through some of those nerves and more during our discussion. Before we hop into that, though, the Mariners literally just dropped their ALDS roster. So let's take a quick look at that. Obviously, no Wu. So Luke Jackson gets the 12th and final pitcher spot. Ben Williamson makes it over Cole Young, which, if you listen to our roster episode on Thursday, you know was my preference. Everything else, though, as expected. No other surprises on here. So there you go. All right, let's visit with Stacy. Making her second appearance here on Locked On M's is the co-host of Bumpin' Stacy every Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on 710 Seattle Sports. Stacy Jo Rost. Welcome back, Stacy.
Hi, happy to be back.
Appreciate it. You know, it's been a little while since we last had you on. I think the last time you were on, at least the night that we talked, I don't remember when I released the episode, but the night that we talked was, I think, the night of the All-Star game. So Cal had just won the Derby.
Yeah.
The Mariners had just swept the Tigers. Funny enough, we'll be talking about them a little later on. Yeah, you know, they hadn't traded for Gino. They hadn't traded for Naylor. They hadn't traded for Caleb Ferguson either. Got to make sure that I also mention him. You know, just so much has happened, right? Like they had the two awful road trips where it looked like, oh God, they might completely blow this thing and not even make the playoffs. And then the Etsy Witch era happens. And thank you, Luna.
I don't
know. I don't know. Wherever you are, Luna, thank you. They win whatever it was, 16 of their last 17 games before the Dodgers series, which we don't count. Okay. We don't talk about that. I mean, just so much has happened. They've won their first division title since 2001. They're playing in the ALDS. We just watched 3 wildcard games, and the Mariners were still alive in the playoffs, and they didn't play in a single one of them, which is like an impossible concept for my mind to comprehend. But here we are, and the Mariners are finally kicking off their postseason run today. By the time you're watching this is going to release on Saturday. For context, we're recording this on Thursday night, and the Tigers just beat the Cardinals. The Tigers just beat the Guardians. So we'll talk about them in a second. But just your reaction to the last couple of months since we last talked.
I think that the one thing we've learned about that, we already knew that this team, like every team, is going to be inconsistent. So you mentioned those 2 road trips, and I just kept thinking, like, I guess we knew at the time, you and I talking, everyone watching, that pitching just wasn't what it was last year. I was hoping at the time we last spoke that somehow in the second half, something would be kickstarted and we would see a resurgence. And while we did see a post All-Star break boost in both strikeouts, overall ERA, I think we can finally settle into like, okay, the pitching doesn't give you quite as much confidence as it did last year. That was true in July. It is still true in October heading into this one. Okay, fine. But I think that this team also meets the moment in a way that we feel slightly more confident in than we did compared to July. I mean, when we were talking, there was that horrible series against the Yankees. God awful.
I might have tweeted something.
Sure, but I think you should take credit. I think that maybe it was like a
I mean, yeah,
behind this.
Who actually led them to their first division title since 2001? Luna or
you did?
Yeah.
But what I will completely give you credit for, and I think I did at the time, is like this team still had a lot to prove to people. And while they still have to prove a lot to everyone, to themselves, something about that Astros series, maybe the most massive thing that happened since we last spoke, did change the way I see them, at least this version of this team this year.
Yeah, the Astros series
turning point
is so fascinating because we all know about the history, right? And I've said this a bunch on the show already, so people will already know where I'm going with this, but like we already knew, like we all know the storylines and what the Astros meant to the Mariners and just this division in general and all that, right? But the Mariners didn't go into that series, and it never at any point in that series feel like it's just about the Astros. It's just about killing the Astros and finally overcoming that, right? It was just, they're another stepping stone to where we want to ultimately go. Like, you're just in our way. Like, get out of the way now. Like, we want to win a division. We want to win the World Series. You're just like one of the things that we have to check off here in order to go do that. Mm-hmm. And that did change my perception of them a bit, because I ranted about this after, I think it was either during the Tampa Bay series or after the Tampa Bay series where they got swept. Like, where is your killer instinct? Right? Because like, I'm not worried about that with the Astros, for example, because we've seen that year after year after year. Even when things get bad for them, like they figure it out, and ultimately what it comes down to is just like, you're in our way, get out of our way. Like I just said, finally we saw that from them. And it's like, okay. To me, it was kind of like, I'm going to use a Seahawks analogy here.
Oh,
I'm sure people are going to love that. But it kind of felt like that second half of 2011 where they started to get their swag, right?
The number of times, to be fair, the number of times I've heard this is 2012 all over again as a reference, I'm like, that's actually refreshing. It's refreshing.
But it does feel like we've seen these guys, and obviously it's been longer than that group, like with the Seahawks. The road to kind of becoming like the alphas has been a lot longer for the Mariners, but it does feel like they finally like gotten to the point of like, no, we like run this now. Like, we got this.
Yeah, you could see the numbers back it up, right? Because it felt that way in the game. Like, it's not like, if I'm going to stick with the cross-sport analogy, which I actually think, is pretty fair. I actually don't mind it. Because the Seahawks were putting up numbers that backed it up. Like, when you were isolating parts of their season, and by 2013, you didn't need to isolate parts of the season. Yeah. You could see genuinely improvement on paper. So, again, we're isolating it to a tiny, tiny sample size, in this case being a 3-game series against the Astros. They never trailed. And quite obviously, because of that, struck first every time, struck first early, and they were pretty dominant wins. And I might have independently, and I'm sure many of your listeners did, have nerves heading into this one. Like, I thought, man, it would be cool if they took 2 or 3. That would be really cool. I hope they don't get swept. Like, I will fully admit that was my thought process going into it. And then you leave it and you go, God, I'm looking at numbers for both of these teams going into it. Why did I think they couldn't sweep? Like, why did I possibly look at not only the lack of health the Astros had, but just the numbers they'd had all year, that Framber Valdez wasn't who he was, right? That like all of this stuff had changed, and I still thought, just based purely on history, I hope they can do it. And it's like, they were dominant.
Yeah. And I think that's getting like swept up in all the extra stuff, all the BS of like the Astros are inevitable and the Mariners are the Mariners, right? Yep. And it's just like that.
Saying it, was I looking at their subreddit? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like it's like that's just like the fan of us. You and I were talking about this before we hit record on this thing. Like we're just coded a certain way as Mariners fans, and we've been programmed to just kind of expect the worst, hope for the best, right? And so yeah, I mean, like going into that series, I was thinking like, okay, if they only won one game, they're at least still in striking distance. Like they could still win the, like they're still like in the division race, and they got the Rockies coming up. Like they should be able to sweep them.
Math of like, how do they still? Okay, if they drop all three.
Yeah, and it's crazy that at the end of it, they had the easiest division clinch of any team in the American League.
Yeah. Yep. I know.
Like, what? Yep. The Mariners.
Like, number one seed went to the last day. So
yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, just this ride that they've been on has been this ride we've all been on has been just insane.
Now here's my question for you. Do you find that as you're saying that, the more you're saying it in a reassuring way, the more nervous you get for the ALDS? Because
100%.
Like the more you're like, so we learned a lot about this team. They can really meet the moment. Like, are you finding the actual belief draining from your body?
Like, yeah, like there's like part of me is like, okay, if I remove myself and tried to be objective about this, like they're really good baseball team.
Yeah.
Really, really good baseball team.
Really deep.
Like they're like, I feel like every postseason, even in the one that they were in 2022, I would watch other teams and go, man, I wish the Mariners had like that. Like I wish they had like that kind of reliever or that deep of a position group or something, you know, whatever. I've been watching these wild card games and I'm like, I'm not envious of any of these teams. I'm not envious of anything that they, I mean, obviously I would love to have Tarek Skubal or Garrett Crochet on my baseball team, but like, other than that, right? Like, I'm like, yeah, this team is good. Like they're really good. More from my conversation with Stacy Jo Rost in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. This episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. With football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. It's quick, easy, and a great way to follow along with football. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. So, like, I do get, and we also talked about this a little bit before we hit record, like all these people on the outside picking the Mariners to win the World Series or at least make it to the World Series, like how uncomfortable that makes us as Mariners fans. But like, I also like, I get how they come to that conclusion. I get how they look at this field. I get how they look at the state of Major League Baseball as a whole, specifically the American League, and go like, yeah, even with the rotation regressing, like it's a good freaking team. So yeah, we'll see. I'm going to be a nervous wreck this week. No, like even if they had 9 Shohei Ohtanis in their lineup because they're all wearing a Seattle Mariners uniform, I'm still be incredibly nervous. But yeah, I mean, that's just how it is. You know, I've kind of been thinking though, like that I'm not sure if I'll be as nervous as I was going into the Astros series though, which is a weird thing to say, just because it's like, had they lost that series or gotten swept, like there's a real threat, like they're not even going to make it. And now we're going to do the same thing that we've done the last 2 off seasons. And we're going to have the same conversations we've had for the last 2 off seasons, talking about, oh, they should sell the team. They should fire so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. They're not going to sign it, blah, blah. Like there was like that worry, especially for me as a content creator, like having to talk about the team every day. So now that there's like not that, like they've won the division, it's like it's a different nervousness. Like it's still a nervousness, but it's more like an exciting anxiety. Like it's like, oh wow, man, like they could actually go to the World Series. That's crazy. Like, yeah. So it's that. So, but yeah. So I don't know, 15 minutes ago, the Tigers beat the Guardians. And you and I literally watched the end of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, this is the outcome that I think most people expected, because like the Guardians, like they went on that incredible run, but it was just not like the way they were winning games was just not sustainable. That's why I was ultimately rooting for them to get through here, and
yeah.
for the Mariners
Without
to play
Jose
them.
Ramirez, they're not quite. I mean, which feels silly to say without their best player, they're not the same offense. Oh, go figure.
But I mean, it's like
stark.
you have to worry about Quan, J Ram, and Kyle Manzardo, and that's really it. And I guess like Rocchio had a nice series, but still. So this was the team that I expected the Mariners to wind up facing.
Yeah.
So now we're here. Tarek School probably starting game 2, if I had to guess. I think Jeff Passan said that he wasn't going to start on short rest for game 1. So School starting in game 2. I have no idea what they're going to do for game 1. I don't know if that's Chris Paddock. I don't know if that's Kyler Montero in a bullpen game. Like, I don't know what they're doing. So we'll find out here. And by the time that you're watching this, we'll know. But for us right now, like, we don't know who's starting game 1 for the Mariners, all that. But just general reaction to facing the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've been asking people all week, and I found that the people that we asked who were, let's say, fans or hosts, like me, Curtis Rogers, we hosted a couple shows this week, and both of us were like, oh, Guardians, for exactly the same reason we were saying. I was like, remove Ramirez from, the slash line for this entire lineup, and it's drastically different. And, there's some good pitching that you have to think about, but there's not Tarek Skubal. You avoid one of the best weapons in the playoffs in either league. So for that reason, we were both going Guardians. And what was interesting is, conversely, whenever we asked, either baseball guys or former players like a Ryan Rowland Smith, they were all saying Tigers. So it was very interesting, just the split between some of the nervousness that Curtis and I felt about facing Skubal, and someone who, a former player and or a color commentary play-by-play guy going, I don't know, man. Like, there's some interest in a team that's cold as ice in September. There's some interest in a team that doesn't quite finish games and doesn't put it away. There's some interest in a team, to be fair, if you were making this argument, that, lost 6-1 game 2 and gave up a 6-1 lead in game 3, taking it to obviously the bottom of the 9th. I think they were able to get a runner on. I can't remember. But like, the Mariners have a better lineup than the Guardians. I think the Mariners, in that case, in 2 innings are able to tack on more runs against this team. So it's a very imperfect lineup. I can completely understand Ryan's argument. Skubal makes me so nervous.
Yeah, I mean, like, I remember like Madison Bumgarner's run with the Giants, and like Skubal is definitely like the kind of guy that can do something like that. And so, that to me is, in a way, the great equalizer. But man, game 1 is just so important. Like, you have to win game 1, because if you don't, and now you've lost home field advantage, and now you're going into game 2 facing Skubal, which, even if you beat the Tigers in that game, that's going to be like a 2-1 game probably.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What were you going to ask?
How do you feel about, because I completely agree with you. What's your confidence level? Again, by Saturday, we'll actually know. But your confidence level in different Mariners starters, either going opposite Skubal. So like, in an ideal world, Wu is pitching on that day, but he's not going to be able to, I'm assuming, a game 3. But I mean, Logan does throw a lot of strikeouts. Strikeouts are incredibly valuable in the postseason.
Yeah. Logan, that's the one that I've been like flip-flopping on, because Logan, I go back to the Astros start. Innings 1 through 2, great, super efficient. Innings 3 through 5, major red flags.
Yeah.
Inning 6, pretty good. It's innings 3 through 5 is what we've mostly seen from Logan, where it's like, people got mad at us after what was it, the White Sox game that Dom Canzone walked off earlier this year. Logan started that game, and we're like, yeah, Logan had 10 strikeouts and he only gave up 1 run, but like, he only went 5. And your bullpen had to cover like 6 innings, because of extras and all that.
Yeah.
And like, that's been my biggest critique of Logan. But also on the flip side of that, I kind of feel like my biggest critique of him is why he ultimately works for the
Yeah.
playoffs, because now that like you don't have to worry about bullpen availability in the playoffs, especially in the ALDS because of the off days, unless someone's dealing with something that we don't know about. And you also have, and we'll see what like Bryce Miller actually looks like coming out of the bullpen, but you do have extra options now. You have extra levers to pull that you should be able to cover 4 innings just fine if Logan is only able to go 4 2/3 or 5. So if Logan is able to give you 4 2/3 or 5 innings of 2-run ball, 1-run ball, no run ball with 10 strikeouts, okay, cool, great. So to me, I feel like Logan more so needs to be like the do or die guy. Like maybe he's the guy that faces Scooble. Maybe he's the guy that you go to in game 5. You know, if you have to go there, hopefully you don't, because like that's like your highest upside play. It's like your huge swing. It's your swing for the fences play with him. So we'll see. If I had to guess, I think George is going to start game 1. We saw that picture of like their warm-ups on Tuesday, and it looked like he was on the mound at T-Mobile Park.
Yeah.
So that to me signals like they were getting him ready to pitch in the home portion of this series. So I think it's going to be George, and George has been great as of late, and it seems like he's finally getting healthier. My conversation continues with Stacy in just a moment, but first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
I want to get back to your point about some of your worries, you know, heading into this. And you mentioned like, you know, God, if this wasn't a team that I covered every single day, I could completely make a case for them to get to a World Series. Outside of like you and I both agree that part of it is just inherent to growing up here. You just have a fear that's born within you. And not only that, inherent to being a fan of a team that is not top in payroll is knowing your window is like, and then gone, right? You look at a Royals situation where it's like you go back and win, and then you don't know when it's happening. Hell, 2001, 2022, and you think like, here we go, it's happening, and then nothing in 3 and 4. So like you also know that inherent to that is that you're not guaranteed the playoffs every year. You may not even expect the playoffs every year. So that aside, this team right now that's going to be rolling out there on Saturday, is there a question that actually does keep you from thinking they might get to a World Series? Devoid of the Mariners.
It is the rotation. It is the inconsistencies of the rotation this year. It's, do I actually trust that George Kirby can stay hot? Do I trust that? And especially now with like the Woo stuff being up in the air, it seems like Luis Castillo is going to have to start. Are we going to see the Luis Castillo that has been the stabilizer in this rotation? Or are we going to see the Luis Castillo that, you know, misses side a lot and only trusts, you know, that he can throw his fastball for strikes, and that fastball doesn't play up as much nowadays. It definitely doesn't play up the way that it did 3 years ago. Like, are we going to see that Luis Castillo that got shelled on the road? Now, hopefully, you know, if he's starting at home, but like, there's like the anxiety of that, and the anxiety of like not having Brian Wu, right?
The Wu one is what gets me.
Yeah. And so that just like adds to that even more. So like, even if Wu was healthy, I would still have, my biggest question would be the rotation and just the pitching in general, the bullpen, right? The bullpen's been shaky. I mean, even even for how much of a dog Andres Munoz is, like, I don't feel safe watching him this year.
I mean, most recent outing wasn't super encouraging, even though we said nothing to worry about with that series. It's still
And like Bizzardo didn't have a great series either against the Dodgers, even though like he's been awesome this year. So there's that, but it's like it's mostly the rotation. But you know, Wu today threw, I think, 25 pitches, and I think he threw a little bit more against live hitters today. And then after, I don't know if you saw this because it happened, the video came out like right after or right before we got on here. He was talking to the media and he said, I feel pretty good, but I'm not where I want to be in terms of like game speed yet. And like, in about a week from now, hopefully we're in a better spot. A week from now would be game
5, a travel day before game 5.
Yeah. So it seems very possible that he might not pitch in the ALDS.
Okay.
What does that do for your confidence levels?
Significantly shrink them. Here's the thing that's interesting, and it's what's been interesting about the Mariners all year long. It's that the pitching hasn't been what it was last year, and yet all the same people are here. So that's the most fascinating thing. I mean, outside of Cal's amazing season and everything else that comes with that, that's frankly the most fascinating thing. That's the biggest story. But it's been looking at a team that has all the pieces it had last year, and everyone has been, up until Wu getting hurt, healthy, at least at the same time now. Obviously, sometimes on the IL. And so what's tricky about it is I think that Wu, if not one, then is number 2 on the list of most important people to help them get to and win a World Series.
Yeah.
And yet, I wouldn't have said that last year with this exact same group of starters. And so that's what's so fascinating about it. I would have looked and I would have gone, oh, Logan and Kirby, you can't, those are obviously your 2 most important pieces. And so there's the hope then that if Wu isn't going to be who he has been for you in the playoffs, and frankly, it's like sounding like he might not be, then maybe Logan and Kirby can be the best versions of themselves.
Yeah.
Are you confident right now they will be? Probably not, because you've been wondering that every single time. But if there's an optimist out there that's looking at the best way to spin that, it's, well, not having Wu when you don't have last year's rotation is different than not having Wu and still having all of those guys ready to go.
Yeah. It's a bit nerve-wracking, but it's also like we know how good these guys can be.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it so difficult, right?
Well, they don't need to limit opponents to 2 runs. So that's the other massive difference.
And also, here's the other thing, kind of like an underrated thing that a buddy of mine and I were talking about the other day. Like, Logan Gilbert and George Kirby are like well below their career high in innings. They're relatively fresh because, obviously George missed the first month or whatever. It's been a long season. I forget exactly how long it was, but like he missed like the first month or so of the season. Logan was obviously out with the elbow thing. Yeah. So like, and so on the flip side of that, they might not be 100% healthy, but in terms of just the wear of a season on them, like they're actually in a pretty good spot. Like they're more so in like July, August mode than like into the season mode right now. So that aspect of it is pretty interesting to me. And I do think that they are, I do think that the Tigers are a good matchup for them. Even with, the lefties like Carpenter and Green and all that. Like, I do think that they match up pretty well with this lineup, but it's just, again, you think back to the times where the rotation just wasn't there over the course of the year. And it's just, even with how talented this offense is. Yeah. And the reinforcements that they've added, obviously, it's the playoffs. Like, you're probably, I mean, unless you're the Dodgers playing, an 83 win Reds team or 84 win Reds team, however many wins they had, like, you're probably not scoring like 7+ runs, no matter how talented you are, no matter how many good hitters you have in your lineup, because it's just playoffs. So I don't know if the offense can consistently bail them out if they're just as consistently inconsistent as they've been all year.
No. Short answer. But I also think that it's been a really, really, really long time since we've seen a Mariners offense like this. And I also even want to strip away just the name Mariners. This is a club that was also 3rd in home runs. I was looking at a stat from, Sarah's clubs that out-homer opponents in the playoffs are like 92 and 25. They don't have to face a Yankees team until the ALCS. So do I feel great about this rotation against the Yankees, the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Brewers? No, not especially. Well, 3 of those teams you don't have to worry about. One of them still has to get through to actually make it to you, and I'm putting the cart before the horse because you have to advance too.
Yeah.
Do I feel okay and confident enough in this rotation against the Tigers? Yeah. If it was against
Yeah.
the Guardians, yeah. Against the Blue Jays, yeah. I think I do. So again, every single team in the playoffs is good. I sure wish that they could face the Rockies in the ALDS. That would be phenomenal. Not possible, obviously.
Yeah.
They'd have to like just let them. Can we borrow that National League team for a minute?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just White Sox then, better example.
Yeah. Could the White Sox just like sneak in? Like,
Can we just like slip all the teams over here? All the bad teams from either league just for no
could
reason.
the Yankees just get caught like cheating or something, and they're like, hey, give their playoff spot to the White Sox.
Can I also say about the Yankees that there's a video going around of them relaying, Judge, I think it's second, relaying the calls, and even though it's the Yankees and I will endlessly complain about them, that's not cheating. And I always get annoyed when I see those videos.
No.
Like, I would love to yell from the rooftops that the Yankees are cheating at something, but that's not cheating.
Yeah. No, it's baseball. It's very good, high level, high level baseball. Yeah. All right. So outside of Brian Wu and, just outside of like the obvious names, because like Cal, Julio, of course, anyone who starts any of these games, give me a couple of key players for this series.
Jorge Polanco,
I
think is absolutely massive. And God, I went through this phase of like credit to them for bringing him back, and then like we knew it. Like he's not great again, and then I'm right back to being like real tip of the hat, tip of the cap to them for doing that. But yeah, Jorge Polanco, just the idea of like, look, frankly, answers 1, 2, and 3 are probably going to come from that lineup. Just the idea of like, if there's a day where, especially shaking off that rest from 5 days rest, let's say Cal's, pressing a little bit, or maybe you have a Genome pressing a little bit. Okay, well, not every single person is going to be pressing, and every single person brings some pop, whether it's Dom Canzone, whether it's Jorge Polanco. So I really do like those. So if I'm skipping straight to someone out of the lineup, not Jorge Polanco, not Dom, not someone else, I'm probably going to go to like Aspire, one of those middle reliever guys, assuming let's take Miller out of the equation coming out of the bullpen, and obviously Brash and Munoz, your high leverage guys, out of the equation. If there was ever a season where it's like, wow, Carlos Vargas pitched the best innings of his life. I'm not looking to Vargas for this one, but someone like a Gabe Spire or Pizzardo, who's actually been really solid. Just if there could quietly be someone where, with all the doubt in the world facing them, they perform, then I'd go to someone like Pizzardo. And Pizzardo can also pitch through a couple innings. So I'd probably say for like a third answer.
Yeah, Bizzardo is one of mine for sure. Spire is a great call, especially for this team in particular, because you're going to bring him in probably to face Kerry Carpenter. They're going to take Carpenter out of the game. It's going to be Jahmai Jones, or it's going to be Andy Ibanez, or whoever, and look, Gabe's been great against righties as well this year. So those at bats are going to be huge, massive, Jahmai Jones versus Gabe Spire, Andy Ibanez versus Gabe Spire, whoever. So that's definitely one that I look at. And like Bizzardo's, I mean, they've rode him so hard this year. Like, so many people that I've talked to have been like, when is his arm going to fall off? Because like, I mean, like I think about like the Astros series, right? Where like he threw the Thursday in Kansas City, and then he throws 2 innings on Friday. And so going into Saturday, you're like, oh, okay, Bizzardo's going to be unevaiable. And then here in the 6th inning or whatever, here he comes again, pitching a third.
It was like, everyone's playing till they're dead.
Right? Like if he dies, he dies. And I'm like, okay. So, Bizzardo's going to be thrown into some of the biggest moments of this entire postseason. And moments that are going to flip games and flip series, mostly because Dan doesn't want to burn Mooney too early, right? So Bizzardo to me might be the biggest key player here out of all of them, because of just how much Dan has relied on him during the regular season, and how much he's probably going to rely on him here in the postseason.
How do you look at Dan's role in the postseason, by the way? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm going to forget to ask you this.
So I was going to ask you about this as well. So I would love to hear your answers. So Dan, I'm not a big Dan guy.
Okay.
I don't know if you've picked up on that or not, but like, I'm not a big Dan guy. Like he's great with clubhouse culture, all that stuff, like all the stuff that we don't see, which again, like, I don't know, like, I don't see it. So, but like everyone swears by it that he's great in the clubhouse and the guys love him. So cool. I'll take everyone's word for that. That's fine. But his in-game management has been a problem more often than it's not for me. Like he's a little too old school for my liking. Like I don't like all the bunts. I don't like giving teams free outs, especially with how, this team has struggled to hit, with runners in scoring position with 1 or 2 outs, like that gives me a little pause there. And the bullpen management, obviously, like leaving Carlos Vargas in to face Jeremy Pena with the bases loaded, and on what was it? The Saturday game. Yeah. Like that stuff bothers me and concerns me about the postseason. However, I would say this again, because of what we talked about earlier, where the playoffs, specifically a series like this, where you have an off day after every 2 games, like you don't have to worry about bullpen availability. And you also have some extra levers you can pull with like a Bryce Miller or something like that. So to me, that makes me feel a little bit better, that maybe, that pushes Dan further away from his favorite toy in Carlos Vargas, no disrespect to the ground ball god who somehow can't get whiffs despite throwing in triple digits, but but like that pushes him further away from that. And it kind of makes it like almost foolproof.
Okay.
So I'm kind of hoping that it's just like the answers are just so obvious.
You're saying like the bumpers
Dan.
are up, like this should be.
Yeah. It's just, the plan should be laid out just kind of perfectly for Dan. And it's just like, you just got to press this button. Right.
Okay.
In this moment. So I'm more so concerned about bunting and stuff like that. That's where my concern with Dan is right now going into the postseason rather than bullpen management.
Yeah, that's fair.
What about you?
Mine was actually probably more of bullpen management and that old school approach of like maybe leaving guys in because they want to be left in and you want to give them a shot and you really believe in them, you absolutely should take them out. That's what I was more concerned about. And just kind of also like watching sometimes the clinic that other managers will put on it just reminds you of like, he is a first year manager. Like you can know everything about baseball. You're still a first year manager and it's still a learning curve. And for anyone who points, to service would be better for them right now. Yeah, I think he probably, but he also had 9 years. So like when he was a first year manager, he still had obstacles too. And frankly, like Dan is clearly very well liked. So that's a massive difference there. But yeah, mine is opposite of yours, where I was a little more concerned about the bullpen angle of it. I don't love bunting. I hate calls for small ball in general because it's just like a dumb thing.
I don't like giving the other team free outs. I just don't.
Yeah. Well,
especially like if a guy, like especially if a pitcher is like clearly on the ropes. I don't like just being like, here you go.
It's not necessarily a way that you need. I think some of the players they have are actually like pretty solid with it. It's not a move that you need. Like, who can benefit from that? The Guardians, because they don't have a lineup that can hit balls out of the infield. Who doesn't necessarily need to do that? The Mariners.
Like Jorge Polanco, why are you dropping so many bunts this year, dude?
You can hit a double with your eyes closed, man. Like, try it.
Yeah. So jeez. I remember when he was like trying to drop bunts like every other game in April.
Don't need to do it.
I'm like, dude, come on. And then he tried it like a couple weeks ago. I'm like, no, dude, no, bad, stop. Yeah.
There's gotta be something that feels so cool about bunting successfully. Like there has to be something that former players are just like, oh, you don't understand the high this gives you.
I mean, like
hitting bombs and hitting bunts, those two things.
Remember Luke Raley had like a great bunt like last year against the White Sox, I think it was, or the Rays. Yeah. And it was like, okay, cool. Like when it works, it's awesome because you can tell like you can tell it just snatches the soul of the other team, especially if there's a couple runners on, especially if it's like supposed to be a sacrifice bunt, but you get on. Yeah. Like it's like,
I think we just like small ball pilled ourselves right now. And like they should want more. Hear me out.
Julio should lead off the game with a bunt.
Lead off bunt. No one's ever thought of this before. God.
Yeah. But yeah, like that does concern me. I know they're going to do it. And in some situations, sure, like I understand why you want to butt. I actually would be down to see them try and squeeze one, like
I'm
with
gonna
a
think of
runner
you
on
the
third.
second they do. I want you to know the
Yeah.
second they bunt
Yeah.
unsuccessfully, I will think of you.
Yeah, you will hear from me when it happens. But yeah, like if they have a runner on third, like one out, like I don't know, maybe lay one down and see what happens at the plate.
Just try it. Try it.
Like
on the side.
especially in a game where maybe you're facing Scooble.
Yeah.
Like runs are just such a premium. Okay, I'll sign up for that. That's the one time you can get me to sign off on a butt. Like, sure. But if it's just like first and second, nobody outs, this guy is laboring very clearly.
Yeah.
I don't, especially if it's like JP, who's been really good since the start of September. Don't
Really
have
hot.
him lay down. He's
We
also
don't
not
need a fake field goal against Ohio State. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like let's take those points. Take the points. Take the points.
Yeah, exactly.
And just get runs.
A conversation that I've seen quite a bit since they won the division has Jerry's model or just Jerry's stance on how to build a roster been validated? Has Jerry in general just been validated?
You can't say no. They won their division. He's leaned heavily into developing talent, and they've done so with their
Yep.
best players being homegrown pieces overall. They've made trades, and their most important pieces have been trades. And you can't say that Polanco wasn't like a budget-friendly signing. So in theory, yes. I think what I worry about with Jerry's model is there are still a lot of questions I have about the pro scouting that they do. And while it's been fantastic this year, they are not fantastic because, in all due respect, I don't love calling out players, but they're not fantastic because Mitch Garver is raking. They're not fantastic because Haniger's still here.
Right.
They're, you know what I mean? So there are still lots of questions I have about just like their version of like, this is our big signing. Like they were stoked about Donovan Solano, incredibly likable person who did have a moment, but like,
shout out Donnie Barrels.
Like they're here because they are phenomenal with drafting and developing, acquiring pitchers. And they've been overall great with the bullpen, even though neither are like the biggest strength this year. They're also here because JP is hot right now, and Julio is an undeniable talent, and Cal is having a season we'll never see again. So, yes, but there are things I'd still love for Jerry to reassess and revisit, and pro scouting is like right at the top.
Yeah. I feel like they have, and they have said like outright, like we've reassessed kind of our data models and all that stuff for like identifying major league talent. I feel like most of their acquisitions since the Raley trade have been pretty good, because like you think about like Robles and Justin Turner and obviously Randy and now with Naylor and Gino, obviously there's the Donovan Solano's there, in the middle of it all. But like for the most part,
in general have been like
they've been great. Yeah, they've been great at that. Yeah. But like just in general, like the offensive acquisitions since the Raley trade, because I think the Raley trade was the second to last offensive deal they made in the 23-24 offseason. Polanco was the last one. Yeah, I think Raley was the second to last one. Well, it was the same day as the Haniger trade. So yeah, we know how that worked out. But
maybe you can count one half of it.
Yeah. Raley, Polanco.
Yeah.
Obviously last year wasn't that great for Polo, but still. Raley, Polanco, Randy, Turner, etc. Like they've actually hit more often than they've missed since that time. So I do wonder if like maybe they've just figured something out. Hopefully they have. But my biggest concern is just the sustainability of this.
Sure.
Right. Like, and that's been Jerry's big thing ever since he's gotten here, has been like, I want to build a sustainable winner. I don't want to just be good for 1 year. I want to be good for 10 years. Cool. Great. Totally on board with that. Would love to see a sustainable winner. Would love for you to be essentially the next Astros and just dominate this division. But, if you're not going to get the support from ownership, that you probably should have.
Right.
Are you going to be like, have you addressed all of your flaws enough to the point where like we should feel like we can actually trust your ability to consistently build a winner working with kind of spare parts, right? Now, obviously they have maybe the best farm system in all of baseball. And some of those guys are about to graduate, right? Like Cole Emerson is here. Like Cole Emerson might actually make the opening day roster. Like I'm starting to kind of believe in that. Las Montes might be a part of this thing at some point next year. Cade Anderson, Durangelo Sanjo, like etc. Like so, there's that, and then there's also like you could trade some of these guys and go get talent, but it's like what is your plan if like say Pete Alonso signs with the Angels because the Angels are the Angels this offseason, and now the Mets want a first baseman and they go give Josh Naylor a bag that you're not willing to match,
right?
Like and. I think there's a reasonable argument to not bring back a Eugenio Suarez. And then there's the Jorge Polanco thing. How much money is he going to make after this year? And how much do you trust him to give you value outside of just being a DH? So there's like all those questions. So if like those three guys leave this offseason, or you only bring back one of them or whatever, like what else are you going to do? What else are you going to be able to do this offseason to say, because like, I don't feel confident in the plan being like Ben Williamson is the starting third baseman and Cole Young's the starting second baseman and on opening day.
Just flying
in
in young guys all the time. No,
and like
just like reminders. Most of the time they don't work.
Yeah. And we might trade Luis Castillo to save his money, save some money on that contract and all. And we're going to try and repurpose that to what? Right. And like, how much money are you actually going to get back? So there's just so many questions. What are you going to do about JP? What are you going to do about Randy? Like, there's just all of that I'm just like, I don't know. And that was also a big part of like why I was so nervous going into the Astros series and so nervous about them, actually making it and winning the division and all that, because I don't know exactly where they go from this year.
Yeah. I think inherent to having the budgetary, and I've been very critical of Dipoto before. You don't often get credit for being critical because, if you're a flagship station, I think people think like you never say anything, which is not true at all. But I've been very critical before. I don't think it's a personal thing. So I try not to get personal, whether it's players, whether it's front office people, and you talk to them and they're all nice people and like. But,
I've talked to Jerry twice. Jerry has been great to us, especially the first time. Like we had a Zoom issue, and he was like totally understanding about it.
Yeah,
gave us a ton of time.
I love Justin too. Yeah. Justin's wonderful, but I think that as you're talking, you're entirely right on every single point. I think that the macro kind of look at this an issue is that uncertainty is inherent to having the payroll they want to roll out. So if you look at the model for building competitive teams on a lower payroll with an excellent front office, you look at the Rays, who are not in the postseason, who when they went to a World Series did not win it, who, you know what I mean? Like your best example of the most consistency you can possibly have with that has how many rings to show and like how many playoff appearances over, or like deep playoff appearances over the last several, you know what I mean? So like, that's the best version. That's the best. And so there's that, which is, I think probably what he's trying to do, hopefully with a little bit more money, which is why he keeps mentioning the Astros, who obviously did end up making some trades where then they have to give someone the bag. And that's probably why he's pointing to Houston quite a bit, because you won't have as low a payroll as the Rays, but like, that's going to be the question every single year. And so I started by saying I've been critical of Jerry because I want to add that like, while I have been critical, there is a portion of this that has nothing to do with Jerry and nothing to do with Justin and is entirely on how much you're willing to spend as an organization. And while there's an onus on Jerry and Justin to plead their case and on players to perform so that revenue and hype and maybe some free agent interest is drawn up, you're always living in this weird, uncertain limbo, bad place that's sometimes great and sometimes deeply painful because you're buying, one raffle ticket every single year when you can certainly get 10, 11, 12. So I just think that like we're never going to find a there is no approach Jerry Dipoto could possibly have that would guarantee you a postseason appearance every single year with the payroll that the Mariners roll out.
Exactly. And my main issue with Jerry has more so just been the way that he's like spoken to the media and tried to explain things, because he's trying to balance, being like the super transparent guy, but also being like I'm the smartest man in the room, which like you have to be to a certain degree to have that job, right? Like you have to have some sort of like level of arrogance to you just to do that job. But that was kind of like my biggest issue, was like you're trying to be two different things at the same time. And because they're conflicting, and because you're having to do like mental gymnastics essentially and linguistic gymnastics to cover for things that are not in your control, but you can't outright just say them. Like,
but you don't want to be blamed for them. So you're kind of,
you're like, like you can tell that he's a person that's constantly at conflict with himself. And that's led to a lot of this stuff. And I'm like, dude, just stop talking into a microphone. Like, please. And that doesn't come from a place of like, oh, I'm annoyed by you or anything like. It's just, dude, this comes from a place of love and like, I want you to succeed because you're the guy running my favorite baseball team. Like, stop.
You know what I'll say though is, in hindsight, I don't think it was only voices from inside the clubhouse, most notably Cal, JP, nor like whispers from reporters or hints in their columns about like, hey, you're not spending, you're not getting. I think it also was though, like, this isn't, I'm trying to spin it, but I think by virtue of very publicly putting his foot in his mouth, the public outcry that followed, I personally have never seen that. It was a perfect crossover of very, very frustrated Mariners fans and social media making those fans' voices very easy to hear for Mariners brass. I think that is part of a force behind some of those changes. So, which I know is kind of what you're saying is like, he's been, he's clearly hearing it, but I think that it's almost like man, if that never happens, do you get this year's team? I don't know.
Well, and so I think like some of it was just necessary for him to kind of like, for him and just the organization in general to like kind of recognize like what we have, right? And I think like a big part of this that cannot be overstated, frankly, is that conversation that Cal Raleigh has talked about that he had before he signed the extension. Like, sometimes you just need someone who's there in it with you to be like, yo, like, look at this. Like you have essentially the superstar quarterback on a rookie contract. Like you have like the baseball equivalent of that, with like, you have addressed like all the hard parts, right? You have one of the best rotations in baseball, if not the best rotation in baseball, and they're all club controlled, and 4 of the 5 are all homegrown. You have a superstar center fielder who obviously there's been conversation about like, he's not living up to that, blah, 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 blah. He's still a superstar center fielder. We know the talent that he has. Cal, frankly, in my opinion, was already the best catcher in franchise history before the season even happened. Like, you have like the most important pieces in place already. We're not even asking you to go out and sign. And this is the biggest frustration that I had, because like some fans are obviously like, you should go out and sign Juan Soto and Ohtani and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you to go give like a 3-year, $20 million, per year contract to Christian Walker, which
I'm asking you to not
they didn't do that, but just like go on and just get some solid like, I think about when the Astros decided like, all right, we're gonna start going for this thing, and they went out, they got Josh Reddick, they got Brian McCann, right? They didn't give out a superstar contract. They just got really nice complementary pieces to help them get to that next step.
Well, and sometimes those pieces don't work. Like you look at, speaking of the Astros, like maybe like it's a Christian Walker. I mean, like sometimes you go out and add those guys and they don't work. So there are times when like we're screaming from the rooftops to add someone, and someone will go, well, who? And we'll go, I don't know right now. Like you're just frustrated because you want talent. But I agree with you. I wonder if part of Cal's conversation maybe adds like a human element to some of those dealings, because when you're a GM, like, you don't work his office is not like across from the clubhouse. Like, you're not around players all day. Like, inherent to your job is kind of, for good reason and fair reason, seeing players as movable pieces. And I wonder if, in the chaos of constantly trying to shuffle the board to either outsmart everyone or genuinely try to do something with a restricted payroll, when there's a player that tries to forge a more positive relationship with you and say, we can do this here, and here's what I need, and I will stay here if you can prove me this, and let's get aligned here. Because his relationship with previous players that were leaders in that clubhouse was not stellar. So I don't think Kyle Seager was barging into his door, sitting down, going, "Let's win a World Series, Jerry." Like,
it was.
I mean, I don't know.
Oh, he's up there playing fantasy baseball. Yeah. It's that, right? Like, that was his relationship with Kyle Seager was, oh, you traded my best friend on the team, like.
Yeah, but maybe a player coming in there, and I don't know that Jerry's like the warmest person on the planet, but there may be something to that relationship in particular.
Well, and it's cool also to see, like, they win the division. Dan Wilson hops on the microphone, addresses the crowd. First thing that comes out of his mouth is, thank you to Jerry and Justin for going out and get the pieces we needed. Mm-hmm. Seeing all these quotes and these articles that have come out of just like, they went out, they got Gino, they got Naylor, like, there you go. Mm-hmm. There you finally got it.
Yeah.
Like, that's all we've been asking for, is just get complimentary pieces. And, please maybe be open to doing it in free agency as well, because, like, not all the time is the trade market going to perfectly line up with what your needs are, like it did this year. But, like, just, this is what you need. Like, especially now that they've gotten, and this kind of goes back to our question, or to our conversation earlier about, like, them kind of getting their swag now, like, and them kind of taking that next step. It was like, Cal and Julio can be the guys now, like, for real, like, can be the guys now, where it's not like you're putting too much on young players' shoulders and just hoping that it all works out. Like, no, like, they're seasoned now. They've been around the block a couple times. Like, they got this. They don't need a bunch of other players to, like, hold their hands and all this stuff. Like, they can do it. You just need to get complementary pieces in here to help take this thing over the top. Because now, like, you look at this lineup, and for the last couple of years, it's just been like, if Julio doesn't perform, like, we're done, we're cooked. Now it's like, if you get anything out of Julio, it's kind of like a bonus. Because it's like, all right, Julio.
You'll need to add more slug for sure. With Cal.
But like, Julio goes 0 for 4 on a night, and it's like, well, Josh Naylor's got this, or Gino's got this, or Polo's got this, Randy's got, like, you just go down the Dom Canzone, who's, like, really good all of a sudden.
It's my Italian nephew.
That's right. Like, he can just suddenly hit lefties now. That's the other thing about this year. I hate making comps to, like, other playoff teams, but
unfortunately, I have to.
But this team reminds me so much of the 2023 Rangers. And how, like,
hopefully
even
not
like
with
some
of the 2 years that followed.
Hopefully not that, but, like, but, like, the ebbs and flows of their season,
sure.
But also how they got contributions out of some of the most unlikely areas, right? Like, you think about the start of this year, and Miles Mastrobuoni was helping them win games. Rowdy Tellez helped them win a whole series in Toronto. Yeah. Like, Donovan Solano had the Wrigley Field, thing. Like he had 2 home runs, had like 6 RBI in that game or whatever it was. Like, Samad Taylor came up for like 2 games and, like, helped them score a couple of runs, in a couple of wins. Leo Rivas, right? Like, you got that. It's like the 2023 Rangers, where it's like Travis Jankowski is, like, hitting 300 for them. Like, what? And then on top of that, you got Dom Canzone, who's, like, legitimately really good right now.
Look, the cool part about that Rangers team is their pitching became its best when they needed it to. So if you want to carry over the theme.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say is, like, they struggled mightily in the second half, just like the Mariners did there on those 2 road trips, especially. The pitching was a disaster, just like it was for the Rangers, where they were blowing it. I mean, again, going back to 2023, you had the division lead at the start of that month. And a big reason for that was the Rangers just completely falling off a cliff.
Yep.
And I remember just how so bad their pitching was.
Yeah.
But then
Vivaldi
their pitching
was cooking.
then their pitching got hot for three weeks, and their bullpen wasn't a problem for like 3 weeks, and they won a whole World Series. So, you know, like I see a lot of similarities. I see a lot of the signs of a championship team too. And this kind of brings us back to like how I'm like kind of convincing myself like they are really good and they can do it.
I love how this is a full circle conversation, but stopping just short of being nervous again. So
right.
Like a 350.
But it's like this has all the signs and all the makings of a championship team when you look at their season as a whole of like unlikely heroes.
Yeah.
Ebbs and flows that they ultimately survived a huge hot stretch.
Important trade deadline moves.
Yeah, important trade deadline moves. Finally, like finding that dog in you when we're talking about the Astros series, winning a division, you know, and now like you go into, you know, in the playoffs. And again, like I look at these other teams, and for the first time ever in my baseball watching life, I'm like, I'm not envious of what another team has.
I would actually encourage people to look at the 2022 lineup heading into that wild card series against the Blue Jays. And I know they ended up winning, obviously, but just like a reminder of where this lineup is today, for that matter, where this rotation as a whole, this team as a whole is today compared to 2022, you're going to feel so much better about this team.
Yeah. So
not that you should feel bad, but it's just get hype. ALDS.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have gone on way longer than I expected. I thank you so much for being here and for taking the time and for doing this with me. This was just so much fun, and it's great talking with you. I would love to do this again here in a couple of weeks, talking about the M's in the World Series.
I was going to say, we'll preview the World Series. It'll be fun.
Yeah, that'd be great. It would be great.
Give the Brewers some love, I guess.
Yeah. I think it might be the Phillies, which is so funny because like I think I said on this show, maybe it was on our Patreon like 3 years ago, I remember being like, if the Mariners ever make the World Series, I think they're going to play the Phillies. Like,
are you on the record saying this? You need to find
I'm pretty sure. So like if they play the Phillies in the World Series, got a lot of time before that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, if we ever get to it. But yeah, if that happens, I got to find that recording. I'm pretty sure I have said that on record somewhere.
Did you say they'll beat the Phillies in the World Series? Important.
I don't know. I just like whenever I've like tried to like visualize the Mariners in the World Series in my mind's eye, I've always seen them play in the Phillies. So I don't know.
We'll find out. We'll find out.
We'll see. All right. Well, Stacy, thank you so much again. Really appreciate it. Hopefully this is a good series. Oh, real quick, where are you going to be enjoying the game? Just at home? You going to be at the ballpark?
No, we're going to be at the park. So Sunday, which is hopefully going to be a game 2 win, a second consecutive win. We're going straight from Lumen, walking across the street, both games for coverage. I think pretty much all of Seattle sports is going to be there. Our writers, our reporters, our hosts, all the on-air hosts. We're all going to be at the stadium, trying to do as many videos and everything that we can find. So for sure, the Seattle sports Twitter page, we're going to have as much as we can. It's gonna be a long day.
Be sure to hydrate. Be sure to, like, don't get too nervous. I will be freaking out.
You and I both will be very, very nervous. And I'll be secretly hoping for a successful bunt for both of us.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, Stacy, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. All right, that's going to do it for the show. Thank you again to Stacy Jo Rost, and thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast and making us a part of your pregame routine before the Mariners kick off their ALDS matchup with the Detroit Tigers. Again, Ben Ranieri of Sea Level and I will catch you after the game. Also, be sure to visit with Chris and Anders on the postcast. We'll have you covered, talking about all the action of tonight's game, get you ready for tomorrow, and it'll be the same routine after tomorrow's game as well. I've been your host, Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's my co-host, CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.